So I just want to start out the show by congratulating you. You've made it to college football. It is officially game week, week 0. Look, it ain't much, but it's honest. We got early week 0 odds coming up here in just a little while. And I'm going to go ahead and make an executive decision. We're going to go ahead and pick our week 0 game of the week because there is only one game deserving of that title. There's been some breaking news this weekend. We got some SEC hot seat stuff, SEC over-under totals, and all that good stuff live from the college football, y'all, unsponsored man cave. My name's Brandon Taylor. Appreciate you, whether you're watching, listening, however you've came about this, I do appreciate it. So let's not waste time. I know we got a lot of fun week 0 stuff to do, but before we get to all that, we've got to talk about this breaking news that is just hot off the presses today, Sunday, as I'm recording this, and that's with former Browns rookie tight end Daquan Wright. So, you know, the court case from a judge in Colorado ruled that there's 16 players that were in the recruiting class of 2022 that can have an extra year of eligibility. And how that works is a bunch of legal jargon and all that mumbo jumbo. That's not important because really I don't want to get into the weeds of the specifics here. So, and there's going to be court cases, there's going to be lawsuits, there's going to be people fighting this one way or the other. But so essentially what happened here, Daquan Wright, Lane Kiffin, and LSU were the first to bite on this. And so, and this is what we've been talking about the past week since this ruling came out is college football really going to allow players that have played actual real tackle football games in the NFL, preseason or not, players that have signed contracts, that have been practicing, and that have played games and actually, stats aren't actually counted in the preseason, but, what you do in a game is recorded at least for fun, right? So you participated, you've taken place in these games. Are you really going to go back and is it actually going to work? Well, they're going to try their darndest to do that. Daquan Wright, who one of 3 former Ole Miss players that declared for the draft, went to the NFL in one way or the other, whether they're a undrafted free agent or actual draftee, they are 3 players that have the chance to return. Now, that does not have to be back to Ole Miss, as we see here. They have the chance of going straight to the transfer portal and going about their ways and then seeing what happens there. Well, Daquan Wright, for one reason or another, we'll get into this article I have in just a second, but he decided to go ahead, throw his name in the hat, enter the transfer portal, and try to come back and get a little bit more. Really, honestly, what it is I don't know if this NFL thing is going to work out. I know I can go back, make a bunch of money back in college, just like I was doing. Let's see if I can go do that. Well, a pretty funny dynamic, what I noticed in this article, and it revolves around the Browns head coach, Todd Monken. So now you've got NFL coaches that are getting wrapped into the weeds of college football in the new crazy landscape. These things, I'm telling you, there's going to be an inflection point in here somewhere. Because when you start messing with the NFL, you start taking players from the NFL, you start like blurring the lines between the two sports. And I don't see how that can end very well for college. NFL, do they have the power to save the league that they take all their talent from? I don't know. I just put my hands up sometimes and say, you know what, anything can happen. Nothing ever surprises me. But there was a funny quote from Browns head coach Todd Monken in a recent press conference. And this was on Saturday. They asked him about Wright's status, and he basically said, man, ain't that stuff crazy? I mean, I don't even know what to say. So what's funny is, he later said, he mentioned LSU head coach Lane Kiffin tried to contact him, and he said he wondered why he reached out a week ago, but now he understands, obviously. And another quote from Monk in here. He said, as far as I know, talking about Daquan right here, as far as I know, he had a medical issue that wasn't allowing him to practice, and that's a medical issue. It's nothing to do with me. Then he was cleared, so we dressed him just in case we had to have him. But when you don't rep, it's hard to put him on the field. So basically, Daquan Wright had maybe been a little bit banged up, all that stuff, and essentially, for whatever reason, he was cut by the Browns. I don't know if this has anything to do with the current situation with the college eligibility thing, the injuries, or just one of those things. A lot of times players get cut. A lot of drafted players get cut. Don't actually make it to the team. Don't actually make it to the regular season. That's just the dog eat dog world when it comes to professional football. Though Wright isn't the only pro player to try and revert back to college, he did become the first to take advantage of the loophole. So the players in this group, this 16-player group that I was telling you about, they're in a week-long transfer portal. Looking at the other guys, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out this week probably whether these guys are going to actually try to go back. Honestly, I would say the majority of them probably just going to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, because when you look at it, week 1 is next week. Week 0 is right now. So there's a group of teams that, as you're watching this or as you're listening to this, they're getting ready to play in just a few days. And some of these guys that are on this 16-player list, that could be some of their prospects of teams. And they're not going to go to any of those teams. And I would dare to say that, we're way past the point of you entering a program and getting ready and playing in a season. I don't see where it benefits you. Now, Daquan Wright, fantastic tight end for Ole Miss, man. He was a great asset to that Ole Miss offense. And if this does stick, we're really gonna see who Greg Sankey is this week, I think. If this sticks, man, he's gonna be, I think, a great asset to that Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr. offense. But the SEC, they kind of put up the guardrail. Have kind of tried to put up the guardrails. This right here is seemingly going to go through. But like I said, we're going to really find out who Greg Sankey is this week. And man, that is just another. It never ceases to amaze me what happens in the sport. And I've got as we segue away from that quickly, I've got something coming out. And when you're watching this or when you're listening to this, it's probably already over there on YouTube. But I got a little video. I call it like a documentary style kind of video, where basically the theme of it is focus on the Saturday. And all this stuff and all these issues that we face in our sport today, all the negativity, all the volatility, all the uncertainty. Focus on the Saturday. Let the Saturday be what the Saturday's always been. That's the message of the video that I've made in a little documentary style, something that I've been working on this weekend, and I would love for you to check that out over on the YouTube channel at College Football Y'all with Brandon Taylor there, and maybe I'll have some clips of it on TikTok. TikTok is at BrandonTCFB. You can also catch me on X at BrandonTCFB as well. Like I said, like and subscribe. The season is here. We got a lot of content, a lot that I want to do, and I want you to be here for it, and I want you to hear another perspective. Just a diehard college football fan. That's what I am. So as we move right along, we're going to get to these early week 0 odds. Because when I formatted this show, I was originally going to go straight from the Daquan Wright situation into the SEC hot seat. But I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Because here's the thing. We just talked about a pain point in the sport. And I don't want to, tug at 2 pain points. Because odds are you're listening to this, and what I'm about to talk about in the hot seat may tug at you a little bit. So it's just formatting. I don't want to put two negatives together. So instead of that, without further ado, let's get right into the week 0 odds. Now, here they are on the screen if you are watching this on YouTube. If not, it's perfectly fine. The odds via FanDuel is where I grabbed these. And this is the slate for week 0. You got Jacksonville State at North Dakota State. North Dakota State is a 6.5-point favorite. You got Sacramento State at Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan is a 9.5-point favorite. Hawaii at Stanford. Stanford is 5.5-point favorite. North Carolina at TCU. TCU is 7.5 points. San Jose State at USC. USC is a whopping 38.5-point favorite in that one. NC State and Virginia could be a pretty decent game here. Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Virginia, 5.5-point favorite in that as well. And the game, I'm going to go ahead and say it, it is the college football, y'all, game of the week. For week 0, Memphis at UNLV. UNLV is a 5.5-point favorite in that one. Now, I really like a couple of these games. Now, I'm going to watch as many of these as I can, obviously. That NC State-Virginia game could be pretty good. That Memphis-UNLV game. Heck, any of these games have the potential of being great because, look, it's week 0. It's an appetizer for what's to come in week 1. We got some great matchups that week. Obviously, I'm not going to get into that. You know, we'll take it one step at a time, okay? We're going to enjoy this season piece by piece. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We're going to pace ourselves this time. Don't look too far ahead. You're going to ruin it. So, Memphis at UNLV. So, this is what I like about this game. And sneaky good game. You got Charles Huff at Memphis. Memphis, members of the AAC. And Dan Mullen, the man Dan Mullen at UNLV. They're members of the Mountain West. So, not to get ahead of myself here. This right here can be a potential college football playoff knockout game right here in week 0. UNLV got a big chance of making it to that 12 seed, winning the Mountain West and being the highest ranked conference champion, you know, that is allowed to make it from the G6, let's just say. Now, Memphis is one of those teams. They've got a great area because you've got talent in multiple states in that, say, 200 to 300 mile radius. You've got a lot of talent in the 300 mile radius, but even 100 to 200 miles, there's a pretty good bit of talent. Getting people to come play at Memphis is the struggle there. Now, Charles Huff, he was pretty darn successful at Marshall. He went to Southern Miss, and they went 7-5 there. And he had this job. You know, he jumped the Southern Miss job, and that kind of surprised me after year 1. But I think he saw something in this program. You know, they're investing. There's Simmons Bank Stadium, man. They're completely tearing down one side, and they're really investing in the facilities. And maybe he thinks he's got some kind of magic that he can bring Memphis into prominence. And Memphis could take this game. But honestly, you know, this is the tricky line of the week as well. We're going to get back into the tricky line of the week because these are two pretty good teams in the G6 that, like I said, have a chance to you know, battle for that 12 spot in the CFP. I think Dan Mullen and UNLV get this one done. I do think they cover that spread. They probably win by a touchdown, maybe 10 points. That's who I'm taking in this one. One more time for the viewers on YouTube at your week 0 slate. Man, NC State, Virginia is going to be fun. That one's going to be fun. USC getting to play here in week 0. USC, a team that a lot of people are, you know, have as a fringe college football playoff team. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to compete. I think they're going to be, in the top 20 when it all comes down to it. But I just don't see them getting through the weeds, especially the Big Ten, and making it in there. But man, wouldn't that be something if they really pushed through and were contenders in the Big Ten? You just got a lot of firepower. You got Ohio State, you got Indiana, reigning national champions, and you've got Oregon and USC lost in the weeds. What's a team like Michigan? I don't think we're going to have any other surprises in the Big Ten Conference, but USC, probably that fourth or fifth team in that conference. Like I said, it's not going to be in the cards for him this year. But man, Lincoln Riley, he's got to do something. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to talk about him tonight when we talk about hot seats, because obviously he's not in the SEC, and we're going to talk about SEC hot seats. But Lincoln Riley's a guy that, I think they're going to be looking for him to, kind of do something here pretty quick. And if he doesn't, man, who knows? I don't think he's on the hottest of hot seats, but if I was ranking Lincoln Riley at USC, I would say he's at least at mild to moderately warm. That's what I would say. So as we move on from the early week 0 odds, I want to get to this SEC hot seat thing. And I say SEC hot seat because what does that mean? Well, if you've checked out any of my content on Twitter, and please do, at BrandonTCFB, I've made several videos going through the SEC hot seat gauge, the second annual SEC hot seat gauge. And obviously this year, it's not as, what's the word I'm trying to say? It's not as volatile. There's not, as much action as there was last season, because last year we knew when we were coming up on last season, there was going to be some turnover. And honestly, there was more turnover than I expected. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you I was wrong about Brian Kelly. And maybe I put too much faith in him that he couldn't get it done. And man, he really couldn't get it done. And he was gone. He was not somebody that I expected to be out of a job, but he is. That's just one example. I was right on some others, and I was just too easy on some guys. But this season, because there's a lot of this turnover in the league, and you got coaches moving around, coaches, moving up, such as Pete Golding, moving up to head coach from offensive coordinator. A lot of these coaches are sitting on blocks of ice, and that is because you get a grace period. Even Lane Kiffin at LSU, a place that's, you've got to win, and you got to be successful, and you got to be successful quick and constant, or you're out of there. Even his seat is cold. So there wasn't too much excitement really in there until you get to the 2 or 3 coaches that are on the verge of being on fire. And one, obviously, the sole coach that I have, the hottest of hot seats, is Jeff Lebby. I went back and forth on Shane Beamer. I know he only had one bad season after being a fringe college football playoff team. They went 4-8 last year. Not good. Obviously, maybe he gets one more season of a subpar performance. But I went back and forth. Moderately warm or is his seat on fire? I ended up going with moderately warm for Shane Beamer. Now, as we'll get to the SEC over-under win totals here in a minute, you'll see kind of what I'm looking towards this season for South Carolina. He's got Lenore Sellers. He's got a pretty decent team there. Honestly, and I'm going to go ahead and throw a stat at you here. South Carolina is on top with returning production in the SEC. Now, they're tied with 3 other teams, but they have 70% of the offense returning, 61% of the defense returning. Now, their 68 returning production percentage, number 5 in the country. Pretty good. You think that continuity could help you. But is that team that went 4-8 last season so much better that they could get 3 or 4 more wins? Stay tuned. But like I said, the hottest of hot seats, belong to Jeff Lebby. Entering year 3 down there in Starkville. He's had 2 subpar seasons. Mississippi State has grueled through 3 bad seasons. And this is just the kind of thing that, the unfortunate circumstance when, you lose your coach at the end of the year. And, it's an unexpected, obviously, situation, unprecedented situation. Mike Leach gone, rest his soul. And you promote Zach Arnett to head coach. And I hated that for him then because I knew how great of a defensive coordinator he was. I knew that him personally, it was going to be hard for him to adapt to the head coaching position. He tried to be something he wasn't. He tried to go in there, throw a wrench in the whole thing, change the whole thing up, and that just did not work. Fast forwarding to 2026. For him, for Zach Arnett, I am glad to see that he's returning to the defensive coordinator position. That's where he should have been. That's where he should have stayed. So for the defense, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be an improvement on last season. Turnover's pretty bad. They got 52% of the defense returning. So take that as you will, as half the team is coming back. But you got to realize, how many of those are starters. Mississippi State returning 48% of total production. That is 86th rank in the country. Not too good. Not too good. Now, okay, so we think the defense maybe will be improved. At least they've got the right guy calling the defense. Okay. Well, you got Kamario Taylor. I'm really high on Kamario Taylor. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the SEC. And when this season's all said and done, I'll be glad to have that confirmed, that affirmation, that I was right on that. And I think, and just looking at the little bit of playing time he had last season, man, he made some plays against some good defenses. He made people miss. And I said this before. I think, in that early, first few games of the season are going to be the make it break it point for Jeff Lebby. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, he's got to win 7 games. 6 games, not going to cut it. I think even 6 games with one of them being a flashy win, I just don't know if that's good enough because you feel like you should have already been at that spot. And now this season you could be working towards, at least jumping into the next tier. But those first 3 games, first 4 games, first 5 games before the bye week are going to be very important for Mississippi State. Now, I think Kamario Taylor, for Louisiana Monroe, Minnesota, and South Carolina, for example, I think those games are going to be won or lost. I'll go ahead and tell you. I think they're going to be won. And it's going to be won on Kamario Taylor's feet. That's him making plays, not necessarily throwing the ball at all times, but scrambling, getting outside the pocket, getting positive yards, getting first downs, getting touchdowns. I don't think the passing, aspect of his game is going to be up to snuff. So I think those games are going to be won or lost on his feet right there. But something that I've noticed here, week 5 they go, or they're at home actually, they're playing Alabama. What are the odds Mississippi State upsets Alabama at home? That would be a flashy win for Jeff Lebby. Now, if that point of the season, you've got 4 games behind your belt, if Kamario Taylor can still do those things on his feet that he had that made them successful in those first few games, including a trip to Minnesota, which is going to be fun. So if they're able to have success on his feet in those first 4 games, for example, maybe by this Alabama game, he's comfortable in the pocket. He's comfortable passing the ball. So he is a true, full-throated, dual-threat quarterback. The pocket's open. Okay, pocket's clear, pocket's clean. Okay, we're gonna set back here. We're gonna throw the ball. We're gonna get the ball downfield. We're gonna get the ball into play, get it through the secondary, and open up that whole aspect of the offense. Open up the playbook a little bit. But if not, okay, we're gonna scramble. We're gonna get out wide. We're gonna gain a few yards, get a few yards here, a few yards there. So now you got the defense on their toes. The defense has to open up their playbook, their coverages, because you really are at dual threat state. And that's what's going to have to happen if they beat Alabama. But I'm telling you, that Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, that right there is where the morale can be absolutely lost in a season. Say you do lose to Alabama. You got a bye week, but say you lose to LSU in Baton Rouge, you lose to Oklahoma at home, and you lose to Texas in Austin. That's going to really derail your season, especially if somehow you manage to lose to Missouri in week 4. You can rebound yourself, but then there's the Egg Bowl, and you're getting kicked down yet again. Stay tuned a few minutes, and you'll find out if I think Jeff Lebby's going to save his job or not. But I'm just going to tell you right now, he's going to have to get to 7 wins, and one of those wins being a good win for him to still be around. Who does Mississippi State get? I'll tell you who they don't need to get, and that's another coordinator. You need to get a guy that has experience as a head coach. There's no other way around it. I hate it for Jeff Lebby, but man, he's almost there. Now, you look back at last season, what was it, 3 games versus Tennessee, Florida, and Texas, where they really had a true shot to win the game. Couldn't do it. Failed to do it. It all comes back to the coach. That's the only explanation that I have. That's primarily on Jeff Lebby, that they lost those 3 games. You can't have that. But you say, well, if they would have won those games, we'd have a completely different discussion right now. We'd be talking about Shane Beamer being, having the hottest seat in the SEC right now. But unfortunately, that falls for Jeff Lebby. So let's just go on ahead and get all that out of the way and get to these SEC over-under totals. I've been talking about this. You've been waiting. I've been putting on a cliffhanger about what's Shane Beamer going to do. Is Jeff Lebby going to lose his job? And you don't know those things until you know this. So we're going to get right into it. And I've got some graphics for you beautiful people that are watching on YouTube. But if you're not, that's perfectly fine. I love each and every one of you anyway. So here we go. Over-under win totals. My predictions for the SEC. And we're starting, obviously, with the Alabama Crimson Tide. We're going to go alphabetically here because that's how we do it on college football, y'all. So these over-under win totals are via FanDuel. So Alabama, as you can see right there on the screen, their over-under is 8.5. So, like I said, these... These are all 100% my opinion. I don't take nothing from nobody. Like I went through the whole SEC schedule, marked the games, who I thought would win, who I thought would lose. Went through all 16 teams. Ended up, this is how it happened. It's no prediction like, well, over under 8.5. Yeah, that they can win more than 8.5. No, I literally went through every single game on the sheet, on the grid here. And picked who would win. And for Alabama, obviously, they're getting over 8.5. I really do think they are. Now, they get the number 15 strength of schedule, according to ESPN. 48% returning production. That's 90th in the country. 35% returning on offense. 61% returning on defense. Wow. So we do know that Keelan Russell was named the starting quarterback. So that's been something that's I expected that. I've been expecting that since the spring. But finally, we know. So that's settled. I really think that Kalen DeBoer, and that staff, I think they knew, but they wanted to see the results. They didn't want to just give Keelan Russell the keys to the kingdom. You got to work for it. And he did, and he earned that position. I think Alabama's going 10-2 this season. I think they got a good chance of, getting to the playoff, maybe. Fringe college football playoff team. It depends on how everything works out. I think a 10-2 Alabama right on the edge. But there's one other 10-2 team in the league that I think has a chance that will get in over them. But we'll get to that later. I was talking about Mississippi State a minute ago. What are the odds that, Alabama loses that game to State? I do think it's a possibility. I really do, for some reason. That's a bold take. I should probably go on over to FanDuel or DraftKings right now and play some little wager. But, it's better for me to predict that now and to say, well, in hindsight 2020, now we get to that game and Alabama wins 42-7. Oh, well, in hindsight, Moving on to Arkansas, and for Arkansas, it's, man, Arkansas is in a pretty bad spot. Ryan Silverfield has got a pretty good mess on his hands. They get the number one strength of schedule according to ESPN, and their over/under is 3.5, and I've got them going under. They're going 3-9. Rome wasn't built in a day. The schedule is absolutely freaking brutal. They go to Salt Lake City to play Utah in week 2, and man, like Georgia. You got Texas A&M at College Station. You got Tennessee, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Texas in Austin. Then you've got LSU at home to end the season. It's a tough schedule, all things considered. Now, if we're looking at returning production, Arkansas is returning 55%. Now, that's 56th in the country, and they're perfectly 55 offense, 55 defense. So, percentage that is. Arkansas, not going to look good. It's just going to take time. That fan base, I know they're patient. They've been patient. They probably really don't care anymore. Things are going to look up. Like I've said this before, the only way to go is up. But, you've got to get off the ground first. And they're still going to be on the ground at the end of the 2026 season. Maybe that's me being overly hard on them, but I just don't see a world where they do anything more than that this year. Moving on over to Auburn, the Auburn Tigers, their over-under percentage, or their over-under win total is 6.5. And I've got them going under. 5-7 for the Auburn Tigers. Alex Golesh, look, he's in this. He, along with John Summerall, two coaches that I like them. Okay, like John Summerall more, but I like Alex Golesh. Like he's what a team like Auburn has been needing. A change of culture. Wash yourself clean of Hugh Freeze and all that fiasco there. Completely just changed the way the program operates. A completely different mindset, a completely different philosophy. That's what Alex Golesh is going to bring. I just don't see it where they get above ground. It's kind of like the deal with Arkansas. For Auburn at that spot at 5-7, the only way to go is up, but you got to get off the ground first. I don't see them getting off the ground in 2026, but it is a probably 2-year. I think if we're looking at Auburn in 2 years, they're getting close to 9 games. How? I don't know. I just predicted that off the fly. Alex Golesh, she's going to be all right, but it's going to take some time. You've got to build this thing back brick by brick. Now, for John Summerall in Florida, you may think, okay, you talked good about Alex Golesh. You thought they wasn't going to do too good, but you had hope for John Summerall. You really like John Summerall, thinks he's going to, okay. Oh, well, Brandon, you must be, smashing the over on Florida. Actually, I'm not. They're over under 7.5. and I have them going 6-6. So they're making it to a bowl game, John Summerall, in his first year. I love this guy's intensity. I really do. And it angers me, the people that say, he's just like, the last coach, Billy Napier. The guy could win in the G6, can't do a thing in the SEC. I don't think John Summerall's that coach at all. I really, really don't. He's the kind of guy that they need. The problem with Billy Napier was he could recruit, he just couldn't develop players. Now, John Summerall, I think, is even better at a recruiter, getting players in there. He's got an incredible pool of talent down there in Florida, just in that state and in that region. But I think his ability to, build players up, develop players over time, that right there is what's going to do them some good. I think they go 6-6. They do go under here, but it's a good base for what's going to be the next few seasons. I think it's a good start, a good step in the right direction. And if they go to a bowl game, they win that bowl game. That's a 7-6 year. I think you're happy about that if you're Florida, especially in year one, with a new coach. Moving on to the Georgia Kentucky. My bad, Kentucky. My graphic here is all jacked up. Okay, I guess we're going to go do Kentucky next. Kentucky, their over-under is 4.5. And this is, again, with that pool of teams with new coaches that have been going through a really tough time. I've got them going under as well. They got the 46% returning production. That's 98th in the country. 40% on the offense returning, 52 on the defense returning. Major turnover, especially on that offense. And the only person to blame is the guy that just left. Will Stein has got his hands full here. You got to blame the last guy for this mess here. This is this is it as bad as the situation in Arkansas? I don't know. I think they're both pretty darn bad. You want to say Kentucky maybe is a little bit better built for a rebound, but not much better. Schedule's extremely tough. They got the number 4 strength of schedule in the country. Absolutely brutal. Will Stein, he's got his hands full. He's got his work cut out for him. So next we're going to go LSU here. And I see my graphic seems to be missing the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll get around to them in a minute. It's on here somewhere. LSU Tigers, man. Lane Kiffin, year one. Charlie Weiss Jr., all the staff that he brought from Ole Miss, some players, all this hype, all this thing. Week 3, they're going to be in Oxford. Game day is going to be there. So is everybody else in the whole world. Everybody's going to be there that day. Their over-under win total is 8.5. Now, they've got the number 11 strength of schedule in the country. And if we're looking at returning production, they got 61% returning, which is 30th in the country, 61% on offense, 60 on defense. So does that really matter? I mean, yes, it matters because you got a team, like I talked about a minute ago, Kentucky, that has a horrid returning production percentage. I've got LSU going over 8.5. They're going to go 9-3 this season, and it's going to be a first pretty decent start for Lane Kiffin. I mean, I don't know if this fan base is going to be angry because they're going 9-3, and I don't know if there's a situation where they can make it in, especially when you got an SEC team like I mentioned just a minute ago. There's one SEC team 10-2 that I think is going to make it in. Another 10-2 SEC team that's not going to make it in. So that means LSU at 9-3, probably on the outside looking in by my predictions, by my estimations. This is going to be a fun team. The only problem is Sam Leavitt. I don't know if I trust Sam Leavitt. Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to is he going to be consistently good, that is? I don't know. They've got a lot of pieces. They got a lot of work to do, and I think, look, Lane Kiffin's going to be successful. I'd be the first one to tell you. You would think because I don't really, I don't really like Lane Kiffin that much. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I'm not a fan of his, is what I'm saying. But, you know, real, real talk here, being completely neutral. LSU is going to be just fine under Lane. Lane is going to win games. He's going to go to the playoffs, you know, multiple times in his tenure before something. Is he going to win a national title? I don't know. You know, I think he, when all this is said and done, is going to fall into the kind of the James Franklin sort of like coaches that can get close, but they can't get over the hump. Dan Lanning is one of those coaches. I don't know that Dan Lanning's ever going to win a title. I'm pretty high on Oregon. I think they're going to be a pretty dang good team, and they're going to be ranked really high. I've got them in the top 3 going into the season. And honestly, I've got them in the top 5. Or I've got him in the playoff. Let's just say that. But he's a coach where I think he's going to get close to it, and he's going to get close to it a lot, but he's not going to get there. And I don't know if Lane Kiffin will get there, but he's going to compete for it. He's going to have extreme success. But I just don't know if LSU will get over the hump with him. I don't know. And maybe that's that's his fault. If it was just he as the coach and not he with all the other stuff, maybe that'd be a different story. But as it is, I do have LSU going 9-3, and they smash that over on 8.5. And let's move on, see what's next, and that's Missouri. So Missouri, number 12 strength of schedule in the country. What's their returning production percentage? 51% returning production. That ranks 70th in the country. They got 59% of their offense returning, 43% of their defense returning. Missouri, one of these teams, oh man, they're going over 6.5. I got them going 7-5. They're kind of reverting back to that spot where, kind of the second tier SEC. Maybe some years they'll bump up and really compete, but this is where Missouri is. And honestly, if you look at their schedule, I mean, like I said, number 12, strength of schedule in the country. That trip to Kansas could be weird, trappy game. At Mississippi State could be a really trappy game. Honestly, that game, right now, I got Missouri losing to Mississippi State in Starkville in week 4. Florida, Texas A&M, you got to go to Ole Miss. You go to Arkansas. You got Texas at home. Then you got to go to Georgia, and you end the season at home versus Oklahoma. That's pretty tough there. So if you come out of it with 7-5, that's okay. They're just that's where Missouri is this season. Let's move on. Mississippi State under Jeff Lebby. Okay. For all you people that hung around after the cliffhanger, will Jeff Lebby save his job? Mississippi State's over-under is 4.5. Now, I said Mississippi State was going to have to get to 7 wins for Jeff Lebby to save his job. Looking at their schedule here, let's just break it down game by game. You got Louisiana Monroe. Okay, that's good. We got that at home. Travel to Minnesota. Sneaky underrated game. Sneaky game. Trap game. Then you go to Columbia, South Carolina. You got Missouri at home. You got Alabama at home before you enter the bye week. So let's break this down into thirds. Louisiana, Monroe, Minnesota, South Carolina, Missouri. Okay, stop it there. That's that part of the season that's going to make or break them. That's where if Mario Taylor is able to make plays on his feet and that Zach Arnett defense is firing on all cylinders, those 4 games right there are what's going to get you over the hump. And then you've got the second, third, Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma at Texas. This is the tough part of this. This is the slog. This is the not the make it, but the break it part of the season, where morale is going to go down, things are going to go south, and it's going to be hard to keep it all together. And then there's that third quadrant there: Vanderbilt, Auburn, Tennessee Tech, and the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss, right there on Black Friday, November 27th. This is where you put the icing on the cake. If you can get 2 wins there, you're good. If you get 3 wins there, even better. Well, I've got Mississippi State going 7-5 and hitting the over, going over 4.5, exceeding it by 3 wins. 2 upsets that I've got predicted. Now, I think Mississippi State has a chance to beat South Carolina in Columbia. I think they got a chance to beat Alabama at home, and I think they can beat Auburn at home as well. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt for any of these lower tier SEC teams, still a challenging game. Like I said, I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be what they were. They have too many pieces leaving. They got too many pieces gone. It's the Diego Pavia experiment is over. So Vanderbilt kind of reverting back to what they were before. I hate to say that. I hate to beat up on poor Vanderbilt, but it just is what it is. Mississippi State going 7-5, and Jeff Levy is sticking around for another year in Starkville. That's my prediction. Moving right along to Oklahoma. I'm high on Oklahoma. Brent Venables getting a fresh dough in his pocket, getting an extension, 6 years. I hope they don't regret that. I really don't understand why teams feel the need to renew a coach like weeks before the season. This year, it's going to work out for him. Over-under is 8.5, and I've got them going over 10-2. And here is where they and Alabama differ. Oklahoma's got the number 2 strength of schedule in the country. And what was that strength of schedule for Alabama? Oh, let's see here. 15. So, still tough. I mean, I'm not going to dog anybody. If you're in the SEC, yeah, you may have a little bit easier schedule, but when you play other SEC teams, is it really that easy? Is it possible to have a easy schedule when you're in the Southeastern Conference? So Oklahoma, I think they're going to impress. I think they're going to lose maybe 2 games that I don't want to say they're supposed to lose, but the 2 obvious losses. I'll leave it there. 2 obvious losses. And I think, spoiler, Oklahoma may find their way into the playoff again this season at that 10-2. And that means Alabama may be the team left out, the 10-2 SEC team left out. Crazy, I know. But Oklahoma, they're going over in 2026. Ole Miss, the Ole Miss Rebels, over under 8.5. Now, I know what you're going to say when you hear this, when you hear all what I have to say. You're going to say, oh, he loves Ole Miss. He's always saying good things about Ole Miss. I don't always say good things about Ole Miss. I'm honest. And if I was so hell-bent on saying only great things about Ole Miss, why would I say good things about Mississippi State? Why would I say good things about LSU? Okay? Look, I'm behind this microphone. I'm behind this camera. I'm recording this. I'm doing all this, and I'm being partial. I'm being impartial, excuse me, because that's what you want to hear. Yeah, maybe you want to hear a little bit of, back and forth kind of discussion. You want me to kind of not just, do the sunshine and rainbows, everything's wonderful, everything's great. I know you want some discourse. You want me to, maybe trash a school or whatever, and I'm not going to trash them if it's not justified, but I'm high on Ole Miss. Sue me. Trinidad Chambliss is the best quarterback in the country. Kejuan Lacey is the best running back in the country. They've got the best kicker in the country, Lucas Carnero. They got Will Eccles on defense. They've got, going to have a defense for what they say is a defense comparable to 2024. Now, we know how that ended up for that team, but that defense was incredible. And if they have a sliver of a defense, anything close to that, then they have a chance to win some of these games. Now, Ole Miss has the number 5 strength of schedule in the country. So this is where they differ from last season. Last season, it really helped them to have that schedule. There was a lot of, it was supposed to be a rebuild year. Turned out to be the best season in program history, aside from the championship season they had way back in the 50s and 60s. But that first game there, that game right there, Louisville, on September 6th, Sunday night, that is a huge hurdle to jump over in the first week. People are automatically assuming that they're going to win those first 2 games. Do not overlook Louisville. I don't care what you say. There is a good chance that you go in there to Nashville, to Nissan Stadium, and you come out with a loss, and you're sitting here, you had all this promise. You had a Heisman campaign with your quarterback and your running back already. You got the wheels turning, man. It's all going. The only way to go is up. You're super optimistic, and you lose the first game of the season. That's very likely. And if Ole Miss wins this game, regardless of the score, that is not an overrated team. That Louisville team, that is not an overrated team. That is a quality win, in my opinion. And you obviously got LSU at home. We've already talked about that. Game day, all those people coming. It's going to be wild. And then after that, you've got to get up and go to the Swamp and play Florida. You got Vanderbilt, Missouri. Then you got to go to Austin to play Texas. That's sneaky. Auburn, and then Georgia at home. We know the history between Ole Miss and Georgia the past few seasons. Then you got to go to Norman, Oklahoma. They did that last year, came out with a victory. Can they do it again? I don't know. Wofford, and then the Egg Bowl. So Ole Miss has 61% returning production. That's 28th ranked in the country. 61% of the offense, 62% of the defense. So Pete Golding and John David Baker have got a pretty good thing going. And I honestly think that this season is going to look a lot like last season. I know they're practicing the same. They're going to try to keep it as similar as it was as possible, because honestly, at this point, I think that's the best thing for them as a whole. They're going over 8.5. And you're going to laugh probably when I say this. They're going over 8.5, and they're going 11-1 again this season. Their only loss will be to who? Texas Longhorns. I got them beating LSU. Tough game. Beating LSU, squeaking by at Florida. They beat Georgia at home. What that game's going to look like, I don't know. I was actually at the Ole Miss Georgia game back in 2014, or 2024, excuse me. I can't talk tonight. And it rained literally the 2 hours before kickoff that I was there, and the 2 hours after the game was over. It rained that nonstop 6-7 hour period. It was the best game I've ever been to. It was the best experience. It was the best atmosphere. I just loved it. It was fantastic. The rain made it even better. We talk about wanting it to be sunny, wanting it to be perfect temperature, all these things. No. Go to a game, a big game like that, when it's raining the whole time, and you'll understand that this is a unique experience that is unlike any other. Yes, you want it to be sunny, you want it to be warm, you want it to be a night game, you want it to be all these things. Go to a really big rain. And I know it's not something that, okay, yeah, I'm going to go to a rainy game. Like, it may not rain all season, but if you get the chance, don't hesitate. That's what I got to say. Ole Miss, they're going 11-1. They smash that over-under percentage of 8.5. So let's move right along here, see what else we got. South Carolina, oh boy. Shane Beamer got the number 10 ranked strength of schedule in the country. Shane Beamer, the guy that is not on the hottest of hot seats, but he's moderately warm. They're going under. They're going 5-7. Lenore Sellers is a really good guy. He's a really good player. I don't know if they have the means to really make something happen this year. I think they're going to lose some embarrassing games. I think they're going to go on a stretch later in the season that's dreadful. And that could be the demise of Shane Beamer. And honestly, if it ends up being how I predicted it, he's probably gone. But 5-7 is what I got for them. You got some pretty tricky games at Alabama. That Mississippi State game at home, I don't care where they play that game. They could play that game on the moon. That's going to be a tough game for South Carolina. At Florida, Tennessee at home, at Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia, and then you end the season at Clemson. What's Clemson going to look like this year? They're sure going to find out by the last week, rivalry week of the season there. So we got them going under, unfortunately. Move right along. Texas A&M Aggies. Over-under is 9.5. So their strength of schedule is number 9. Their returning production is 65%, 67% on offense, 63% on defense. And I got to go on under. I saw when I was looking at some mock college football playoff predictions on ESPN earlier, I saw somebody had Texas A&M in the playoff. No shot. They're going 8-3. They're going under that 9.5. Move on. Maybe we'll get to some of these teams that the graphic missed earlier. So we got the Tennessee Volunteers. They're over under 7.5. Oh boy. Number 14th strength of schedule. What does their returning production look like? 62% on off, 60% total, 58 on offense, and 65% on defense. Returning production for 2026. Tennessee, I got them going under 7.5 because I have them winning 7 games. I have them going 7-5, and that's going to include a game that maybe they shouldn't lose. They're going to win every game that they're supposed to win, but they're going to lose a couple that they're not. That's kind of Josh Heupel. What's that Tennessee program look like? I mean, after the deal with Nico a couple years ago, they kind of looked pretty bad last season. Can they right the ship? 7-5, is that bad? Tennessee fans, is that bad? 7-5. Do you take that another 7-5 season? I didn't think so. So next is Texas. Texas Longhorns. Oh boy. 9.5 is their over-under percentage. Their strength of schedule, number 3. What's their returning production look like? Pretty darn good. Number 2 in the SEC, 68% returning. That's 6th in the country. They got 73% returning on offense, 63% returning on defense. Arch Manning, you got a plethora of talent, pass catchers, pretty darn good defense. I'm high on Texas. Texas is one of those teams where people either have them in a playoff or they have them like losing 5 games. They're smashing that over. They're going 11-1. They're going to the playoff. They're competing for national title. I don't think they're going to make it to the national title. Again, stay tuned for my college football playoff predictions, but they're winning 11 games. And Sark is, he's kind of saving his job in doing that. Up next is Georgia. We finally come back around to Georgia. The graphic missed Georgia. I had everything's in alphabetical order, and it just ruined everything, but it's all right. We're back around to it. Georgia. Oh, man. The schedule for them is paving a clear path for the SEC and the college football playoff. Number 20th strength of schedule in the country. They got 68% returning production, which is 9th in the country, 63% on offense, and 72% on defense. So is this Georgia defense going to be unstoppable like they were a few years ago? I think that's going to be their strong point. I have them going over. I have them going 11-1, and I have them going back to the SEC championship game. Because I just think Kirby Smart, it's a mixture of a lot of things. It's a mixture. Gunnar Stockton, is he going to improve? Is that offense really going to be that great? Or is that defense going to be just so good that you just can't do anything with them? They're going 11-1. They're competing for the college football playoff. And they're probably winning the SEC again. And the final team on our SEC over-under predictions is the Vanderbilt Commodores. Poor old Vanderbilt Commodores. Now, the Diego Pavia experiment is over. We know that. They're on the very bottom of the SEC when it comes to returning production. Number 44. That is 106th ranked in FBS. 38% on offense returning, 49 on defense returning. That's percentage-wise, by the way. Over-unders 5.5. I've got them just barely going under. I got them going 5-7 on the year. And looking at their schedule, they've got, I think, 3 wins right there. 1, 2, 3. Then I think they're losing 3 at Auburn, at Georgia, and then at Ole Miss, or Ole Miss at home in Nashville. But then they beat the bottom feeders. They beat Arkansas and beat Kentucky for getting a bye week. Mississippi State, Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee takes care of business. That's how I end up on 5-7. Clark Lea's job is not in jeopardy. His seat is still cold, in my opinion. It's going to take 2 subpar years like this to, for him to be on that. But, in saying all that, they're going 5-7. I mean, there's a shot where, man, they could probably they could get a win that they are not supposed to get. Maybe against an Auburn, against a Florida, Mississippi State, and they could get to 6 or 7 wins. I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility. I think a good safe range is from 5-7 to 7-5, but I just think 5-7 is a little bit more realistic for me for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And there you go. See, SEC over/under win totals. Man, it's been a long show. I haven't went an hour in a while. So we're analyzing everything we've talked about tonight. We talked about the worst, some of the worst things that are happening to college football. It seems like every time you get behind a mic, you have to talk about something bad. The SEC hot seat thing's bad, but, that's just part of it. That's always been part of it. The coaching carousel has always been part of the sport, of any sport. We talked about the week 0 odds as we look towards college football finally being here. And then we looked at the SEC over/under win totals. We took care of a lot of business tonight. But another note, if we're talking about week 0, the NCAA has done a great thing here. The next few years, week 0 will be week 1. There will be no more week 0. So right now, if this was next year, we'd be talking about week 1 games. And there's going to be a heck of a lot of them this season. But we got to get through week 0. So stay tuned this week on all the platforms. I've got the little Focus on the Saturday little documentary coming out, a few minutes long. I've got my college football playoff predictions coming later in the week, and some more fun as we narrow the days down, single digits, just a handful of days until real live college football is on our television screens. So my name's Brandon Taylor, as always, from the unsponsored college football, y'all, man cave. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned. Peace.